Hello and welcome to this next interview in our ISTQB Women in Testing series. I am thrilled to have with me today Anne Kramer, who's based in Nuremberg in Germany. Anne has had over 20 years in IT with a variation of jobs, which we'll talk about in just a moment, including testing in projects, test manager, and a lot more. And we'll pop into that in a moment. Anne was also very involved with the development of the ISTQB MBT curriculum, involved in the syllabus writing, and indeed wrote a book about it. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
So, Anne, let's start with how you got involved in testing.
Yeah, I have to say my career path is not very straightforward. I started as studying physics in north of Germany, in Hamburg. And then I thought I would become a professor. So I did a PhD, and I seized the opportunity to do my PhD thesis in France. That's how I came to France. And but then I discovered that maybe I'm not willing to stay in the research area, because it's really hard to become a professor. And so I switched to the industrial domain, and what do physicists do when they go into the industry? Where I became a developer. But still, I wanted to stay in France, so I started becoming a developer of a testing tool, by the way, in Paris for Schlumberger, for testing smart cards. And but I rather rapidly became project manager there, and then in 2000 there was a break, and I got my daughter, and at the same time we moved back to Germany, and then I looked for a job. And I looked for a job. Looking something for project management or developer. I discovered a company that was completely focused on quality assurance. And I even remember during my job interview saying, but who wants to test? and the one who later became my boss, he said, well, you will be surprised. We have a lot of colleagues that they love testing. I was a little bit dubious. But finally, I love testing, and that's how I really dived into the topic. I was officially a project manager, but I had a very small project, so I did a lot of testing myself, and it was quite often for tool development, just testing tool development, and then I had was a test manager in the automotive industry, always as a consultant. In parallel, I started to become a trainer for the ISTQB course, especially for the model-based testing course, but also for requirements engineering and project management, all those topics that are dear to my heart. And I also was, in the end, I was a team lead. Then I felt that I'm getting older, and but retirement is still far away, and something should change. And that's why last year I decided to change again after more than 20 years, and I went to smart testing, and now it's really completely testing. I'm a global customer success manager. They are selling an MBT, a model-based testing tool. And this is where really my heart lies for model-based testing.
You can certainly see your enthusiasm. It's coming over very, very well. You mentioned that your earlier career, you started in development and then went on to project management. Do you think that that's typical for a lot of women? They think, actually, I'll go that route, rather than maybe thinking, I'll go straight into testing.
I think it's typical for a lot of testers, even more general, not to have the straight approach. That you become a tester from the beginning, and then you improve. I had a lot of colleagues, especially the female one, that said that they did their job, sometimes completely different jobs in the medical domain, and they got tired of it because of the conditions, and then they changed and they became testers.
That's a significant change in role. So that's one route, and the other route, so people who perhaps have done a degree in computer science, deciding, which direction they're going to go with their career. Again, I think, a lot of people I meet would say, I'm going to go into development. Why would you say, no, choose testing?
Because it's more rich, I would say. It's. There are people who love developing, but if you also like to talk to people, if you want to have different possibilities, different projects, then testing is a really good thing. And this is by a reason why I think that most people from computer science won't go into the testing domain immediately, but they are sometimes drawn into it because someone has to test, and then they discover that making the product good, ensuring the quality, that this is something which is also very rewarding. But it's not a job where you have a lot of power. It's not. You can become a test manager. You may even become a head of quality assurance. But then you're no longer testing. You're no longer. You're really in the management area, and it's not this high salary elbow politics domain as you may have in development, I think.
But testing, quality engineering, quality assurance, there is a certain skill set needed there, a very definite skill set, especially if we look at the direction that organizations are going with software development, much more shift left, much more agile approaches and what have you. Thinking about women and some of the skill sets, which of course aren't just inherent to women. Definitely men have these skill sets too. But what do you think it is that women can particularly bring to some of these roles?
I guess it's communication skills. I think that's the major important difference. That you are. It may also be easier to accept that something goes wrong when it's told in a good way. And also, one big problem you always have in testing is that you have to find out what is really expected. The requirements, even with a good process, requirements can still be unclear, and quite often they're not that well defined. All the requirements you have in the HR, you have user stories, and you have a lot of user stories, but how they depend on each other is not so clear. So you have to discuss a little bit here. You have to talk to people who don't have time, who are stressed. You have to be convincing to get the information. You have to get a test environment. This is also not always easy. So you have to really make things move, but with a good, emphatic, communicative way.
We talk so much now about collaboration, and collaboration is such a key to success now. And those communication skills, I think, can really help, within a team to foster collaboration. Little bit of a leading question here, but, you think women are really good at that bit, bringing the team together, fostering that art of collaboration. Do you think that's somewhere where women can particularly excel, perhaps? And I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, because I absolutely don't want to have any bias here. But,
yeah.
Is it something women are good at?
Not necessarily. Yeah? We are different, but maybe not that different. It's not the major difference, I would say. Women like to talk more, maybe, but we really have to be careful not to generalize. And I had a very, very good colleague who was really integrative. His strength was really keeping the team together and making the team feel a team. I also had female colleagues that or contacts, let's say colleagues, where it's more difficult. There are more, the opinions are split.
Have you learned some techniques? Because you've had a very varied career with different roles. Have you learned some techniques that you find yourself using in situations which are perhaps a bit more tricky that you could share with some of the people who might be watching, or thinking, okay, it's all very well and good talking about communication, but how do I really do this and be effective?
Yeah, I'm not very reflected when I act, but I try to to analyze quite a lot. How do I work? What triggers me? When do I get aggressive? For example, when do I lose concentration? And so, if you understand yourself, you work on that. I think this is really helpful, because you may people are different, and there are people who are shouting, and then others are shrinking back because I also you see it. I tend to talk with my hands, and I can become loud when I'm really when the topic is really dear to me. But you have to know what happens, to see what happens, and usually you can apologize afterwards, or you can explain, and people get to know you. But you should be aware of your own strengths and weaknesses, and accept those. Work at them, but don't try to be someone else. I think being consistent, being coherent with oneself is a very important one.
And authentic, I guess, is one of the words as well. Try to be authentic, with that reflective aspect also, where you're thinking about, what did I do today, and what can I change? So women who are thinking about a career in testing, thinking about putting together their first CV, curriculum vitae, resume, and expressing some of the qualities that might actually be important. Do you have some suggestions of what would be absolute essential on a resume these days for a woman wanting to be a tester?
Well, apart from if you have some experience somewhere, it is good to add that. There are universities that offer the possibility to become a certified tester. So if you have this opportunity and you think about it, and even if you think of becoming a developer, take this course. It will make you become a better developer too.
I think if you look at the new CTFL 4.0 syllabus, one of the things I know is considered is the skills for testers. So certainly I think it's well worth, dipping into that and then thinking about what is it that might be worth thinking about for that CV.
If I may, I add one more. One important thing is that you should be able to rapidly understand the new situations and new products. And also testing is quite often outsourced, so you have a high chance of becoming a consultant, a quality assurance consultant, and then you will go from one project to the next project, and you will have to be to be able to understand quite rapidly what the new language, the new product, and so if you are good at that, put it in your CV.
Yes, that's good advice. That's very good advice. And actually, that kind of brings to mind another question. That is, again, team collaboration. When you've got a distributed team, and you've got people, across the world, different cultures, different time zones. As I know, when I'm sometimes up at silly o'clock in the morning to have conversations, that can bring its own challenges and difficulties. And doing some of these interviews, I've spoken to a few women who said, I find it a little bit hard sometimes to speak up. I feel as though I'm the person sat in the virtual meeting, not necessarily saying much, and I'm aware that the cameras are on. Again, is there anything that comes to mind that you could give advice to people in that type of scenario, to women in that type of scenario?
Well, I guess you could also have the situation in on-site meetings that people don't want to speak up, and we have this is a continuous thread through all the interviews. We always have this moment where we talk about that women should be more self-confident. I don't know. I don't even think that it is education that we have been primed like that. But we have more doubts about whether we are able to do that, whether our opinion is good. We tend to say that finally that if we get the opposition, we tend to say, yes, maybe you're right, but still, and but our opinion is getting smaller and smaller. And we should be more self-confident, more assertive, not aggressive, because that's not good either, but more stand your ground.
Yes. Yes, and trust our opinions. We're quite entitled to express an opinion. I'd always say think it through a little bit, but yeah, and establishing our place. One of the pieces of advice I often give to women in that situation where they are quite new to a role, perhaps, is try to find yourself somebody who's an advocate, who, when you're in that type of meeting, they will be looking to see what cues you might be giving to say, I've got something to say. And if they can advocate for you by helping to bring you into the conversation, that sometimes just helps to boost your confidence a little bit. I know that certainly happened to me in my career, and there's one particular person I can think of. And the difference it made to my ability to contribute in meetings was so significant. And it was all because of this one person, really having my back a little bit and just helping to give me the confidence and just framing things for me a little bit better, perhaps, than me sat there a little bit kind of, well, I don't know what to say. I'm not quite sure. So very useful, I think, to reach out to people who can support you.
But there's a trap, huh? I'm not maybe not the best person because I'm really not shy, but but there's a trap that when you have an advocate, that's probably a man, and then finally it was the man's idea. So what I do in that, you have this effect. Women say something, and then men say it again, and suddenly it's important.
It's his idea, yeah.
Maybe not even that, but suddenly it's listened to. What I do then in the meeting is I say, now that my colleague has said it once again.
Yeah. That's a good tactic, actually. And again, we're generalizing a little bit here because, of course, that's not what all meetings are like. But it certainly is, from speaking to a lot of women now about this, it's something that we can experience. But yeah, that's a really fair point. Your advocate needs to also give you the opportunity to take the kudos and what have you too. So,
but as I said, it's not even that the advocate then takes it for him. It's more that the others listen more to the advocate than they do to you. But generally speaking, what helped me a lot was having a mentor. And it was not even an official mentor. I decided someone in this company will be my mentor. And by the way, it was a man. I did my studies in physics. I am used to being surrounded by men, and it's not necessarily a woman, but someone who you can talk to. And if you have the feeling that things are going wrong, that you're not listened to because of the fact that you are just a small woman, then go to your mentor. And if you did a good choice, then you will get help and you will get support. So this helped me a lot.
I'm interested in the process you went through in finding somebody who you felt could fulfill that role, because I imagine you need to find somebody who you can trust, because you're exposing quite a lot with a mentor potentially. How did you go about finding the right person to do that with you?
As I said, I'm not reflecting that. It was, in fact, it was one of the CEOs of the company, but it was only a very small company. And I felt that he's experienced, that he's not, that he's very, very open-minded, that he's seeing me. And well, one day I told him that I see him as a mentor. It wasn't really not official. But when I had questions, I went to see him. But it was a small company. It's really listen to your stomach, I would say.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
But there are companies that have official mentoring programs, and people that who volunteer being a mentor usually are of the kind that listen.
A question for you. I've had several mentoring programs, and it took me a little while to work out. Maybe I need to think about how to be I wouldn't say a good mentee, but how can I get the most out of this mentoring relationship for myself? And it took me a little while to get my head around that. How did you make sure?
Change in habit, huh?
Yeah, and also, we'd have a mentoring session, and I think, okay, well, what am I going to talk about in the mentoring session today? And I sometimes felt a bit on edge that I had to come with something every session, something that I needed, and that's not the case at all. And sometimes, it's just sitting down and talking about what happened in the last week, what kind of thing you've been doing, and exploring what maybe were the things that were really good. And I think that's something that's really important in mentoring, thinking about what did I do really
well. Find out your strength. Yeah. And build on them.
And building on them, absolutely. So not reflective, but if you were speaking to somebody who was about to look for a mentor and approach somebody, what would you say the main thing is that they should have in their head to help them get the most out of it?
It's the mentor should be experienced, and you should have confidence. You need this. This is really difficult to build this during the sessions. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and if you're in those sessions and you all the time you think about what can I say, what shouldn't I say, then it's difficult.
It's difficult, yeah. And of course, not everybody's trained to mentor as well. They do it because they just want to help. So it's good to have some ground rules, I think, to move forward. So
but then another thing which I felt myself guided me a bit, which is that you have people you look up at. So women in testing, you have the two agile girls, Linda Rising and Lisa Crispin, and especially Linda. Linda, I mean, being on stage and being already a little bit older and still being full of enthusiasm for testing and for agile and absolutely not old-minded. Really very agile in their head. So I thought when I saw her for the first time, I thought that's how I want to become. I want to stay like that, and or even become like that, and and keep that in mind that you have a goal.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, a girl being up there on stage and presenting is wonderful. I mean, I'm loving the number of conferences now where I'm seeing women much better represented on the stage and, wanting to share and what have you. I mean, if I look back 10 years ago, there's been such a shift change, which is a real positive and good to see.
Yeah, but if you look at conferences, testing conferences, you have quite a lot of female speakers. And also quite a lot of overrepresented part of female attendees. But when you look at the program committee, it depends on the conference.
It can vary depending on the conference. Yes, we were.
And once again, that's the job where you are more in front, deciding. It's more those high salary management positions, as I said. Well, it's not paid, I know. But still, it's reputation, and we're not looking. Well, as we said, we shouldn't generalize. We're not looking so much at reputation, and that's also, I think, a reason why maybe there are more women in testing than there are in software development. Because when you look at the computer science courses, there are few women, of course, but more of them end up in testing, and. I think this has several reasons. Some of them are good. The conditions for women in testing are rather good. Part-time is easier. It's but it doesn't have the same reputation. And when companies want to do something, they should work on the reputation of testing. They should acknowledge that testing is as well else worthy as is software development, and I think that this is not the case yet. Well, when you have the choice and you look for reputation, you want to have something where you can say proudly, I'm a software developer at the company XYZ. I'm a tester at company XYZ.
Oh, that's an interesting one. That goes well beyond just kind of a female perspective, I think, and testing in general. But I think isn't it changing a little bit? Because, you mentioned earlier, it's about quality. And we know that, a company's reputation, its competitiveness in the market, there's so many things which are affected by quality. Surely this is at C-level as a priority somewhere, in most organizations.
Yeah, but we talk about development, we talk about unit testing, we talk about user story testing, about automated testing a lot. And we have developers. I mean, that's coding. It's writing code. And a test automation engineer is a developer, in my opinion, with testing competences, of course, but it's not the testing. I mean, testing is also when you have system testing, end-to-end testing, testing the business rules. This is more for in the female domain, let's say.
We're coming to the end of our time, so some final words, Anne. We've possibly got people here who are early career, mid-career, women who are thinking, okay, what next? Do you have any final words of advice for them?
First of all, as I said already several times, find out what you are really good at. What is when you're doing it, when do you have the feeling of flow? What do you really like doing? And usually that's also what you are good at. What is the common? I mean, I did a lot of different things, and I finally found out that the common point of all my activities was that I help people to do it themselves. And so I'm in a way, I'm a teacher. So when you think of changing or how to continue your career, try to find out where you are best at and what you are luckiest with. Then you can look for the job that corresponds to that. This is one thing. And the second one is try there. I mean, I changed after 20 years of working in the same company. This was a step. A big step, but I'm really happy having done it because changing from time to time is very good. And we teach it with Agile. Changes are welcome, changes make you better. But when we look at our personal life, we tend to stick to what we know, and we are scared of going somewhere where we are not sure whether we will succeed. And maybe women even more than men. So dare it. Yeah. And as I said, my career path was absolutely not linear. There's always a way somewhere where you can find it. I think
real words of wisdom, Anne. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely to spend time with you, and I could actually sit and chat for another couple of hours, but they'll cut me off and say go away. So thank you, Anne Kramer, another woman in testing, a great woman in testing.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye.